Hey everyone. Okay, so today is day 3, and today we are going to be looking at how we communicate our emotions. So day 1 we looked at emotions, day 2 we looked at feeling our feelings and emotions, and now we're going to kind of explore how we communicate our emotions as well. So a lot of the time when we don't communicate our emotions, it's often because, especially with children, it's because they feel like they haven't got a safe space to express themselves. And again, depending on the child's age, sometimes cognitively they're not developed enough to articulate themselves, but a lot of the time it is because they don't feel safe enough to express. Often when they express their emotions, it will come out either as quite aggressive, screaming, shouting, tantrums, meltdowns. It can be even quite violent as well, where things have just kind of pent up and just built up and up and up and up, and then like that, right? So we want to kind of, as soon as we can with our kids, and again, everything for ourselves as well, learn to actually, like we did yesterday, feel into our emotions and know what to do with it, okay? The more we practice feeling into our emotions, the more we intuitively know how to resolve and how to soothe it, at least, okay? So it's about, as parents, creating that safe space for our children to come to us to articulate their feelings and emotions. So by creating that safe space, it means that we're not in our safe container. We're not including judgment. We're not including shouting. We're not including being cross with them. They feel that they can flow to us, open up, express, and that what they're feeling in that moment is just not going to be judged in any way, and they're not going to be reprimanded in whatever way for being honest, okay? Because often this can lead to, especially in the older years, lying, okay? So for those of you with older kids, it's a common thing where they don't feel safe enough to come and talk to us or tell us how they're feeling, and so they lie. And then that's just a vicious cycle, because it doesn't necessarily always get a positive response from the parent. So it's about teaching our children from as young age as possible about feeling comfortable in our emotions, and then feeling comfortable enough to express them, okay? I often use certain words with my clients in terms of expressing how we feel, okay? And these are the same words that I tell my clients to offer their children, is the same words that I teach my clients to use for themselves as well. So again, everything I'm teaching you, it can be applied for your child, and it can be applied for yourself as well. So one of the common things that I actually kind of talk about is using the words I feel, okay? I feel really sad today. I feel a bit disappointed. I feel. And the reason I teach my clients to use those words is because it's the truth. That's how you're feeling. Whereas a lot of the time we can go to a default that sounds a bit like this. You've made me feel really angry. Or you've made me feel really upset. Or it's because of you why I made this mistake. I blame you. Right? And when we speak to people like that, when we're trying to express our feelings, but we speak in that way, it can make the other person feel really defensive, okay? Because nobody's going to want to take ownership of how anyone else feels. So a good way to start is always by saying, I feel this way. This has happened, and I feel like this. Not, you've done this, you've made this happen, now I feel like this. There's a very different energy if you can feel it, okay? And hear it as well. So it's about teaching our children that it's safe to come and communicate to us, and when they do, words that feel good, because it does. Words do feel good in terms of I feel, feels better then you've done this, you've made me feel this way, you did this. You can see the difference, right? So it's about teaching them to really come from heart space, from where the emotions are, allowing themselves to be vulnerable in that moment and feeling safe enough to feel vulnerable, to articulate how they feel, and knowing that when they articulate that the emotions are going to be looked after and nurtured, and they're not going to be rejected, and they're not going to be judged in any way for it. Okay? Because we want our children to grow up as emotionally healthy adults, that when they get into relationships, they can express themselves to their partner. Okay? And it's the same things with us. A lot of the time, you know, a lot of us haven't been taught how to communicate our feelings in a healthy way. We just haven't. So we've grown up learning to project or to blame somebody else. You didn't put the dishwasher on last night, so now nobody has anything to eat in, and this is obviously your fault, and I am fuming right now. It sounds really different to, oh gosh, okay, there's nothing to eat, there's no cutlery or anything to use, the dishwasher wasn't put on last night, you know, I do feel a bit annoyed, but you know, it's a different energy, okay? It's not blaming, yeah? So a lot of the time as parents, and I've done it, I'll hold my hands up, I've done it, and I've actually said it. At the beginning of my parenting journey, I've said it to my child, like, you make me so angry. Why can't you ever just listen? Why can't you ever just do that? You just do the same thing again and again. Whereas I could have turned around and I could have said, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, because actually, instead of saying, you make me angry, I could say, I'm feeling really frustrated right now because actually I feel like, you know, whether I said this to my child or not, I could say it to myself. I feel like I'm failing. I feel frustrated because I feel like I can't get it right. Yeah. Or when I want to shout, when I have shouted, you're not listening, why can't you ever just listen? I could have said to myself, I feel unheard. I feel helpless. And I just don't feel like I'm a natural mum. I don't feel like I'm doing what mums are supposed to do. And when we come from that perspective, you know, we can reach a solution a lot easier than saying, you're making me so angry right now. Like, I want to scream and shout at you. In fact, a lot of us do scream and shout, right? Or this is your fault. You didn't listen. How many times do I have to tell you to do the same thing again and again and again? Do you feel the difference in that? One has more vulnerability, the other one doesn't. One is led by anger, the other one isn't. When we have a partner and our partners let us down, or we feel like we're being taken for granted, which a lot of women do, because we do so much, we rarely ever say to ourselves, I don't feel good within myself. I feel empty. We rarely ever say that to our partners. We're more likely to say, well, you don't make me feel like this. You don't make me feel attractive. You don't make me feel like I'm wanted. You don't do enough around the house. I'm doing everything. When actually we could say, I feel so tired. I feel exhausted and I need help. And I'm turning to you because you're the only person right now that can support me with this. And I would love for you to help me, because I care about us. I love you. I love the kids. The truth is, I feel empty. Can you support me in some way? Okay, so there's again the difference between vulnerability, but you have to feel safe enough to express it. A lot of us have grown up not feeling safe enough to express our feelings, because a lot of us grew up with very old school disciplinarian parents that, you know, went with the method of children should be seen and not heard, or if you spoke back, you were going to get punished for it. If you asked questions, you were going to get punished for it. And a lot of us grew up quite suppressed emotionally, but it's also what's led to a lot of adults that are experiencing really unhealthy relationships with themselves and unhealthy relationships with others. And a lot of people are suffering with depression and feeling broken because they were not getting their emotional needs met as children. Okay, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but you know. Okay, so again, today is about teaching our children the words and the language in terms of communicating how they feel, but also putting into practice being that safe container for your child. Okay, so that's just your task for today. Is kind of, again, journal it out. If you've got a journal, log everything that's kind of coming to you, think light bulb moments and everything, just log it all in that journal. Practice being that safe space. You know, if your child is coming to you, because children are feelers. I've said this before already, right? If they feel like, you know, if I go and tell mum this, I can already feel her energy is stressed. Should I go and say something to her, or should I just do it? I'm just going to go and do it. If they feel like they're going to get a bad response from you, they will do it, or they'll lie, or they'll suppress it. And then weeks later, it shows up as something completely different, something completely escalated, and it doesn't have to be. So it's about practicing being that kind of safe container for yourself as well, for your own emotions. It's about being able to hold space. Okay, so it's about being able to hold space for yourself and your own emotions, because a lot of the time when we're not that safe container for our children, it's not because we don't want to be. When we can't handle our kids' emotions, it's not because we don't want to. It's because often we don't know how, because we rarely do it for ourselves, or we haven't been shown by our own parents. Okay, so holding space is about just kind of being present with your child and their emotions. Okay, but are you present for yourself? Are you present for your own emotions? Because that's the whole point of this course. It's about you leading first. When you lead first for yourself, you will find parenting so much easier. I'm not saying it won't ever be stress-free. You know, you'll live a stress-free life with parenting, because that's just not going to happen. But it will be easier. Okay, so really feel into, do I hold space for myself? Do I communicate my emotions in a healthy way? In a way that doesn't get people's backs up, in a way where I'm not projecting? Am I taking ownership? Am I allowing myself to be vulnerable? Because if I'm not, it won't encourage my child to. Okay, and again, come together, have one-to-one time, sit down and talk, get to know each other, see where your child is in terms of how they express their feelings to you. And you know, if it needs tweaking, you know, say to them, you know, you can come to me anytime and say, you know, I feel sad, or I feel, you know, whatever it is. Just create that connection and that bond with your child. I promise you, if you do this from as early as possible, you're paving the way for a much easier pathway in your relationship years down the line. Okay, if you have any questions, drop them in the thread below, and I will be here with you all week, supporting you, loving you, and being there for you in the best way that I can. Okay, and I wish you a fantastic day.